I tilt the scrap toward the light. The fibers are cleanly torn, the pocket that hid it stitched like a secret. On the sand outside, the tide erases everything that does not cling. This is Somerton Man, 1948, Tamam Shud, and a name without anchors. A well-dressed stranger on an Australian beach, a book of verse, and a code that resisted easy answers. Walk with us along the shoreline where certainty ends. Adelaide at the edge of summer. In the waning days of 1948, Adelaide rested between heat and hush. The war had ended 3 years earlier, and while the city had resumed its rhythm, a quiet uncertainty still fluttered beneath its surface. Streets felt orderly but somehow emptied, as if waiting for something. Warm air rolled off the coastline, and the ocean, ever present, lapped against Somerton Beach, a flat, forgiving stretch of sand bordered by weather-worn seawalls and the neat geometry of suburban streets. On the last evening of November, soft twilight laid itself across the shore. Just beyond the shallow steps down from Esplanade Road, a man was noticed, seated rigidly against the seawall. He was sharply dressed, a light brown suit, pressed trousers, polished shoes that hardly touched the sand. There was nothing urgent about his presence. A few passers-by thought he was resting. One woman believed he might be asleep. Another paused, briefly concerned he looked unwell, but, finding nothing alarming, continued on. Darkness fell with little resistance. By morning, the scene remained unchanged in form, but not in meaning. Police arrived after a cyclist reported the man had not moved in hours. He was no longer resting. He was dead, yet nothing around him suggested panic or struggle. His hands lay loosely across his lap. No sign of trauma, no note, not a print in the sand to suggest company. Investigators observed details quiet in their strangeness. His shoes were immaculate, unsuitable for a walk along the beach. The inner tags of his garments, every one had been carefully snipped away. In his pockets were ordinary things, a used bus ticket, a packet of cigarettes, a comb. But no wallet, no papers, no name. It was as though someone had erased the man just enough to leave him whole, yet untethered. According to summaries from the 1949 coroner's inquest, reviewed in Trove archives, there were no signs of violence, no external injuries, no clear cause of death. He had arrived with nothing disruptive and left without a word. A man in a public place who seemed, as one officer later suggested, dignified even in death. Somerton Beach would remember him, not as someone local, not as a wanderer, but as a question, a man without a beginning, only an ending, clues without names. At the Adelaide railway station, in the sterile quiet of the left luggage office, a brown suitcase sat waiting, unnoticed for weeks. It had been checked in on November 30th, 1948, just one day before the Somerton man was found on the beach. The ticket for it had remained unclaimed until one of the station clerks matched its date with that of the man's clothing and alerted authorities. Inside the case was a modest array of possessions. Clothes, yes, all neatly folded, as if their owner had taken care to avoid wrinkles. A pair of trousers repaired using a strange wax thread, later identified as an uncommon variety not widely available in Australia. A sharpening strop for razors, a small screwdriver, scissors, and oddly, a stenciling brush, the kind sometimes used by shipworkers for marking cargo. Yet the most peculiar detail was what had been removed. Nearly all identification marks had been carefully cut away. Only a few faint names remained, Keen and variations thereof, but none traced back to any known missing person. Investigators checked tailors' shops, shipping manifests, and business records. Each lead dissolved into nothing. Back at Somerton Beach, little more could be recovered. The man carried no wallet, no identification. His pockets contained ordinary items, a comb, a nearly empty packet of Army Club cigarettes, curiously filled with a different, more expensive brand. A box of matches, a half-used bus ticket to Glenelg, and an unused train ticket to Henley Beach. These tiny fragments painted a ghostly outline, but no image formed. The autopsy revealed a robust, well-nourished man appearing in good health. Yet inside, a different story was told. His spleen was remarkably enlarged, his liver congested. Experts noted signs consistent with poisoning, but forensic analysis at the time failed to detect any trace of toxins. In 1949, that meant no definitive cause of death. Despite the absence of visible trauma, the man seemed sculpted into silence. Not a single bruise or cut marked his skin. His face was calm, untouched by suffering. To those who examined him, it felt deliberate, as if someone had wiped the slate clean before walking away. According to summaries of the coroner's inquest, preserved in Australian archives and newspapers digitized by Trove, the overwhelming impression was that of an individual who had erased his own trail, or had it erased for him. In mystery, we seek nouns to anchor the story, a name, a motive, a method. But the Somerton man left only adjectives: meticulous, quiet, precise. Clues stacked upon clues, but all of them led to silence. The last circuit through the city. What little can be traced points to a final quiet passage through Adelaide. He likely stepped off the overnight train sometime in the early morning hours of November 30th, 1948, slipping anonymously into the city's waking rhythm. At the railway station, he checked a brown suitcase, its worn leather and utilitarian contents offering few clues and no name. From there, he seems to have drifted toward the heart of the city. Receipts and transit schedules suggest he bought a bus ticket that could have taken him to Henley Beach. But somewhere along the line, his destination shifted. Instead, he ended up in Glenelg, a sleepy seaside suburb where seawalls cradle the shore and dusk moves in gently. That evening, witnesses noticed a man in a suit reclining against the seawall just above the sands near Somerton Beach. One woman recalled seeing his arm raise briefly, as if lighting a cigarette or perhaps acknowledging a passing thought. Another thought he had shifted slightly, just so. Then he ceased to move. There were no signs of struggle. The sand around him remained untouched, unmarred by frantic steps or dragging marks. A half-smoked cigarette rested on his collar, oddly perched, as though intentionally placed or carelessly forgotten. It was an ordinary object, but in this context it felt strange, too neat. In hindsight, the window narrows to that quiet evening. The sun had long since slipped beneath the tide, and the sea lapped rhythmically just out of view. If he had taken something, there was no container nearby. No trace of poison, no bottle tucked beneath a coat sleeve. If someone had given him something, they had disappeared cleanly, leaving the scene untouched. It was neither chaotic nor violent. Instead, the picture was of infinite stillness, a long pause without a resumption. By morning, Glenelg awoke as usual. The milk carts rattled down the streets. Tram bells clanged through intersections, and a jogger's report brought a policeman to the scene. Leaning down, he rifled carefully through the man's pockets, looking for a name that wasn't there. Only the faintest trail remained, and the city moved on, not yet aware it had inherited a mystery: the book and the code. Months after the Somerton man's body was discovered on the quiet sands of Adelaide's Somerton Beach, investigators found something startling. Hidden deep in a fob pocket sewn into the waistband of his trousers, an area easily overlooked, was a tightly folded scrap of paper. Its edges were clean but slightly uneven, as though torn by hand. On it, printed in ornate type, were two words that would echo through decades of speculation: Tamam, Shud. The phrase translated from Persian means it is ended. It appears at the conclusion of certain editions of the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, a book known for its meditations on death, fate, and the fleeting nature of life. This singular clue would prove pivotal. Not long after, a local man came forward. He claimed to have discovered a copy of the Rubaiyat tossed in the back seat of his Hillman Minx, a car parked near Somerton Beach around the time of the body's discovery. The book's last page had been torn out, and that jagged tear line perfectly matched the edges of the scrap tucked in the dead man's pocket. This was unmistakably the source, but the book held even more secrets. On its inside back cover, faint pencil markings revealed a series of capital letters arranged in lines, clusters that bore no immediate meaning. Beneath the jumble, a telephone number. The number led authorities to a woman living in Glenelg, just blocks from the beach. Press coverage from the time, preserved through Trove's newspaper archives, notes that she asked not to be named, and police respected that decision. Her identity was obscured in official documents, and any relationship she may have had with the dead man was never clarified. When shown the plaster death mask, the woman reportedly reacted with visible discomfort, but her words, if any, never reached the public record. The code posed its own mystery. Cryptanalysts from the Navy and other agencies studied the letter groupings using known techniques: acrostics, cipher patterns, even the possibility of initials forming a poem or military transmission. But no interpretation achieved consensus. According to the University of Adelaide's research archive, several theories emerged, yet none held firm ground. Meanwhile, toxicologists puzzled over the body. The coroner's inquest, held in 1949, considered the possibility of an undetectable poisons like digitalis or strophanthin, which could kill without leaving reliable traces. Yet laboratory results found nothing conclusive. Without physical evidence of a toxin and no clear signs of physical trauma, the cause of death remained speculative. Ultimately, the coroner's office concluded with restraint. He was an unidentified man, his demise very likely due to poisoning. But without forensic certainty, the file closed on an official note of measured ambiguity: intent unknown, method elusive, identity unresolved. Explanations that almost fit. In the tense aftermath of World War II, the whisper of espionage hung easily in the air. The Somerton man, with his formal attire, secreted scrap of Persian poetry and complete absence from all national records, seemed plucked from the shadows of Cold War intrigue. His suitcase, retrieved from Adelaide railway station, held oddities: a stenciling brush, scissors with unusual sharpened edges, and waxed thread not sold in Australia. To some, these tools hinted at clandestine operations or technical fieldwork, perhaps coded communication, or a life threaded through government secrets. Others found the story turned softer at its edges. When a single phone number, retrieved from the back of a copy of the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, led police to the doorstep of a young woman named Jo Thompson, the tone shifted. She lived near where the body was found. Her reaction, reportedly startled and faint at the sight of a reconstructed bust of the dead man, only deepened the mystery. Rumors swirled about a wartime romance, a secret child, a past that refused exposure. Could his death have been a deliberate farewell, a final message embedded in poetry? And then there was the page, torn from that very book, bearing the words Tamam Shud, it is ended. To some, that fragment whispered suicide. Perhaps he had simply chosen a private, poetic end. But the clean appearance of the scene, absence of vomit or signs of distress, and lack of any known poison in his system challenged that narrative. Toxicologists at the 1949 inquest floated the idea of a rare, fast-acting poison leaving no trace, digitalis, strophanthin, but could never confirm it. The possibility of an accidental overdose lingered too, an error with a pharmaceutical substance, fatal and fast. Investigators also pursued more prosaic paths. His clothing, devoid of manufacturer tags, was tailored in a distinctly American style. Some guessed he had arrived as a migrant or worked aboard a ship. The practical contents of his suitcase suggested long-term travel, not luxury, but purpose. Yet no ports, crews, or immigration rosters ever matched his description. Each theory seemed to stitch a part of the story neatly in place, and yet the seams never held. The codes scrawled into the back of the book, believed to be an encrypted message, resisted all attempts at decryption. No leads on his identity emerged from dental records or fingerprint registry. The way he moved through Adelaide, checked baggage here, seen near the train station, possibly poisoned on the beach, bore the marks of intention, but from whom? And why? There was a shape to the mystery, even a rhythm, but it never quite resolved. The more one looked, the more hollow it became, as though the Somerton man had been designed not to be known at all. Exhumation and a name, carefully spoken decades drifted by, and the Somerton man's gravesite remained much as it had always been, a modest plot at the West Terrace Cemetery, marked only by the words unknown man. Through storms and sun, generations passed it without knowing the weight it bore. But its silence was not forgotten. In 2021, following years of advocacy and renewed forensic interest, South Australia police authorized the exhumation of the remains. Decades of uncertainty had met the age of genetic revelation. The bones, carefully lifted from the earth, were subjected to modern DNA sequencing. This was no idle curiosity. It was a scientific resurrection. Through the slow and meticulous work of forensic experts and genetic genealogists, a possible identity began to take shape. Using distant matches and family tree triangulation, researchers proposed a name, Carl, or possibly Charles, Webb. Born in the early part of the 20th century, Webb had been an electrical technician from Victoria. His life, as pieced together from public records and familial links, held traces that seemed to echo in the few items the Somerton man left behind. The modest, practical contents of the suitcase once left at Adelaide's railway station now took on new relevance. Details aligned: the soldering tools, the stenciling brush, the shaving items, a working man's belongings. Yet even with this compelling match, uncertainties lingered. No clear reason placed Webb in Adelaide. No connection yet firmly tied him to the cryptic code or the torn slip of Persian verse. Public agencies acknowledged the finding with measured language. In statements to the press, researchers and officials emphasized the tentative nature of the identification, noting that formal verification processes were still underway. Yet interest surged. New investigations spiraled outward, revisiting old touchpoints. The Glenelg nurse once linked by a phone number, questions of hidden relationships, the fragile tendrils of family history long obscured. Adelaide's headlines, once filled with fragments about torn labels and store-bought thread, now spoke of DNA profiles and centimorgan segments. Technology had caught up with one of history's quietest riddles. And so after more than 70 years, a name emerged. Carl Webb. It was not shouted or emblazoned. It was spoken gently, and offering more than a declaration, as if waiting to see if the silence would accept it. What a name can and cannot do. A name can restore a person to the world, but it does not automatically return all that was taken. We might trace genes through time, map family trees, and even confirm identity beyond reasonable doubt, yet some truths remain just out of reach. The Somerton man may one day be given a proper name, but will that name tell us why? Why he came to that stretch of beach? Why his pockets carried tickets, a comb, and cigarettes, not his own? Why he died quietly on the sand with no cries for help and no one to claim him? Intent often vanishes before it can be recorded. Was it a rendezvous never met, a mission hidden beneath layers of plausible acts? Love perhaps unfulfilled or forbidden, an illness suppressed, or a decision made in silence, finalized by the shore. Investigators noted the man's finely pressed suit, out of place against the sea wind. His shoes were spotless, as though untouched by travel. The torn scrap of paper found tucked in a hidden pocket simply read Tamam, Shud, it is finished. That phrase and the book it came from, the Rubaiyat, carried whispers of fatalism and fate. Even now, decades later, the clues endure. Scrawled code that has never been deciphered, a phone number linked to a woman who claimed to know nothing, and a suitcase filled with peculiar items bearing clipped labels. But perhaps the lasting grip of this man's story lies in more than his anonymity. It's in the barren elegance of the scene, the stripped-down minimalism of a mystery. Almost nothing left, almost nothing wasted. A life concluded with deliberate quiet, and one small piece of paper that against all logic stirred a nation's imagination. We return to the case again and again, not simply to pin down who he was. We return because in his silence, in the gaps he left behind, we project the questions we ask of ourselves. You have been listening to Nightmare Nook. The Somerton man sits where the tide hesitates between certainty and suggestion. If a name returns to him, we will follow it. Until then, the shoreline keeps its counsel. Subscribe for the next investigation.